So as you can see in my very clickbaity title, I almost never went to a native speaker. I never went to an English corner. I think I went once and then I decided, this isn't it. This just isn't for me. First of all, I was too socially awkward. I was too intimidated to talk to a stranger in Chinese, let alone English. And second of all, I just didn't find it helpful. And I'll tell you why in a bit. Hello. If you're wondering why the thumbnail looks different than the video, it is because this is not a new video. I'm actually recalibrating my channel. It's not reposting if the new subscribers haven't seen my old content, and I'm using this opportunity to take a sabbatical of sorts while I work on something really exciting that's to come by the end of this year, I promise. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my latest ebook, which is a complete guide on how to learn English or any other language on your own. It includes a detailed study plan with all the tools and resources that you need. I've also addressed some of the common misconceptions and questions. Reading the book will help you understand, this is what I did wrong before, this is what I should do. No matter what stage you're in terms of your learning journey, this book is going to help you out so immensely, I promise. Or refund back to you, no questions asked. All right, let's get on with the video. But that's interesting because when people hear me talk, Chinese people and Americans alike, they just assumed that I either was born here, I was born in America, that I was ABC, or that I had a native speaker at my house just listening to me talk or talking with me every day, that I had this crazy amount of courage, that I was really outgoing and sociable and would jump at any chance to talk to a native speaker. When in reality, I would rather kind of just work on my own, hone in on a few very technical skills, be it my pronunciation or building a bigger vocab or rewording how I say things. So what I'm arguing is that for 99% of English learners, beginners and intermediate learners alike, it's not ideal to go to an English corner. It's not ideal to talk to a native speaker in hopes of improving your English. And before you come at me and be like, get off your high horse, who do you think you are? Native speaker teachers are so much better than you. They have better pronunciation than you do. And you're just jealous, which you make a fair point, but let's distinguish learning by talking from learning from exposure. I'm all for exposure. I'm all for you listening to two native speakers talk, whether in real life or on TV, in a monologue, in a speech, in a podcast. I'm all for exposure, but those are done in a controlled environment. Even when people talk to each other, like two native speakers talk to each other in real life and you're just eavesdropping, you can learn so much by just observing and listening to what they're saying rather than him talking to you, because you're like here and he's here, and for him to talk to you, he has to come down here to meet you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to communicate. And so if you are talking in the beginning, when you're a beginner, you might not learn anything because he had to come down. Whereas if you're listening to two native speakers talk to each other, you can kind of deduce, even if you run into a word that you don't know, you can deduce what they're talking about based on the context. This is even better when there's a text, a subtitle to their conversation, which is why I recommend you listen to people talk on TV or in a video with subtitles, with not only the audio but also the text. So I'm not saying don't listen to native speakers, only listen to Chinese people. That's not what I said. I'm just saying you don't want one-on-one interaction with them first. There is a time and a place for taking advanced lessons with a native speaker, and I think the best timing is when you've reached a certain level of fluency, when you've reached basic command. I'll quantify it in a little bit for you. When you reached a basic command of the language, when you've understood the most common words, how to use them, how to use them more flexibly, in a more versatile way, that's when you go to a native speaker. It's not practicing your spoken English. It's just learning ideas from him, learning new vocab from him, asking him for book recommendation, going to him with your essay that you've written and asking him to correct your grammar mistake. Or better yet, when you go abroad to study, you're learning actual subjects in English. That's not learning English. At least you're not just learning English. You're learning a subject in a brand new language. And as you're doing it, you're picking up words kind of passively along the way, but your focus is still on that subject. And that way you're getting exposure, you're getting real and authentic expressions. You're seeing how native speakers use things either in everyday life, in a more informal way, or in written format in a more formal way. That's when native speakers, or being around native speakers, or learning English or learning a different subject in English from native speaker teacher becomes useful and financially responsible. It makes the most financial sense to go to a native speaker then. If your vocab is below 3,000, before you practice your liaison, your basic pronunciation, there is no point in either living with a native speaker or, going to an English corner. First of all, you don't understand each other. And second of all, even if you do, the part that they can help you out with is so easy that you might as well go find a Chinese teacher that can do just as good a job, if not better, in terms of explaining grammar, explaining what to do step by step. Whereas a native speaker who's never learned a foreign language, never learned a second language, might not appreciate what it's like to be a beginner in a brand new language. And then the hard part, which is teaching you new words, teaching you new expressions. A lot of native speakers like to teach idioms, slang. That level of difficulty is also problematic because usually when a native speaker teaches, it's usually in a mid-sized class. So he or she doesn't know what your current level is at. So for them to put so much information on you, first, it might not register, it might not take. And second of all, you can also learn them on your own by watching TV, by buying decent reference books that not only give you the same information, but are also more organized, more detailed, more extensive, and are always at your beck and call. Like if you have a good dictionary, if you have a good reference book, if you have a good TV show, you can always just learn new expressions at your own pace. Most of it learning, most of it language acquisition in terms of gaining more vocab and improving the quality of your vocab, that is most of the time done on your own. Like myself, I am surrounded by native speakers. I have no shortage of friends to talk to in English, but that's not all I do, right? I read things in English. I read books, articles, news. I watch videos in English. So it's not just me single-handedly carrying a conversation or the other person, the other native speaker trying to feed information to me. I also spend a lot of time reading. I have a consistent input of, I would say, like 500 to 1,000 words a day in the last 5-6 years that I've lived here. So my overall improvement of my language isn't strictly attributed to just talking to people. Hopefully you understand that I'm not reducing this whole phenomenon down to, oh, native speakers bad, Chinese teachers good. It's more nuanced than that. That is it. I hope you get the point that I'm trying to make. Hopefully this video doesn't become contentious or controversial, but if so, all the better. No publicity is bad. No publicity is bad. No publicity is bad. No publicity is bad publicity. Am I right? Try saying that a few times.